From the moment Republicans impulsively wrestled the House speakership away from Kevin McCarthy precisely 3 weeks ago today, actually it happened during this program, the act of replacing him has been like the worst, most unserious, but still very watchable reality TV show ever. Backbiting, score settling, alliance making and breaking. And today, a series of secret votes kicking people off the island. The original field of 9 Republicans who wanted the job was whittled down this morning from 7, then 6, then 5, then 4, then straight to 2, and then 1. And now he's out. Minnesota Congressman Tom Emmer, the House whip, got his rose today, but literally in the last few minutes since we've been on the air, he dropped out of the running. So on to plan whatever we're on. E, F, G. Let's bring into our conversation NBC News correspondent Ali Vitale on Capitol Hill for us, and former congressman from Florida and MSNBC political analyst David Jolly. What is happening, Ali Vitale?
It's a new record, at least, Nicole.
Right, what, 3 hours?
Emmer had this job of speaker designate. 3 hours, exactly.
Yeah.
He got it around 1 o'clock, and my understanding is he walked into the room behind me at around 4, dropped out, and left with a smile, but nary a word to reporters. So now they're back to the drawing board, kind of. It's a drawing board that we've already looked at today. Specifically, Kevin Hern and Mike Johnson will once again vie for this position, which, again, I have no idea why anyone wants at this point. But for Hern, he is someone who is coming into this with a lot of optimism, having just spoken to him on his way into this meeting. And for Mike Johnson, he is still one of the last people within the existing leadership structure who could potentially rise into the speakership. I have no clue if they will be able to get the 217 that they need. But in order to answer that question, they first have to get the majority in the room. So we'll see which of them comes out with the very coveted title of Speaker-elect, and we'll go from there. But I think it's important to note, I think because we've talked about it on this show, I'm not someone who thinks that former President Trump is a mover of votes here on Capitol Hill, but it is my understanding, according to one source familiar with what Emmer was doing in these intervening hours while he was trying to see if he could get the votes together, as soon as Trump tweeted saying that he was a rhino and that he basically didn't support him for this job, that's, I think, when Emmer realized the writing was on the wall. Because although Trump doesn't move votes, he can kind of stop votes from moving. And I think that could be one of the things that spelled doom for Emmer even sooner. But it is the shortest-lived Speaker-elect bid that we've at least seen here. I'll go to our House historian, Kyle Stewart, one of our producers, to see what the shortest one actually is. But this has got to be in the running.
Well, I mean, David Jolly, I think Ali just sort of illuminated us as to and we're matching today, Ali, it's a sign, as to the structural problems, right? So the structural problem is that Trump doesn't have enough juice to get anybody home, right? Trump plus Hannity equals nada, nothing, zilch, failure. Talking to you, Jim. But the guys that voted to certify the election, even if they signed on to the lawsuit, the Texas lawsuit, don't have the juice to win over the crazies. And I don't want to call anyone a moderate. There are no moderates. I mean, Emmer was a gun-toting guy who was fetishizing his Second Amendment rights right after the brutal hammer attack on Paul Pelosi. He signed on again to that lawsuit. We're not talking about ideological differences. We're talking about, I guess, standing in MAGA world. And I think we're at the point now where it's irreconcilable. What do they do now?
Yeah, look, I think the divide within the caucus and the distrust and the vitriol and the hatred is real. And I think to Ali's point, it's not that Donald Trump really can move a lot of votes, but he gives resolve to those who want to stand in opposition to someone like Emmer. And that's what he did. He strengthened the resolve in the last 3 hours for Emmer's opponents. So now they all go back behind closed doors and they stand in a circle and they all draw their weapons and they shoot at each other for a few hours and see who's left standing. I mean, that has been kind of the metaphor of these last 3 weeks, a circular firing squad. But I do think we are getting over the landing zone, that if Republicans are going to bring this to an end, it is in this moment. Ali and I have kind of walked this walk together over the past couple of weeks. And I've shared with you, Nicole, I think it takes somebody the country doesn't know, which is now you're left with Hern and Johnson. And I will tell you, but for the bad blood coming out of pulling the rug out from under Emmer. If Johnson had prevailed today behind closed doors, I think he could get 217 because he's kind of just Goldilocks temperature enough for everybody in that room. But I think Kevin Hern is interchangeable with Mike Johnson in this moment. What does it mean for the country? And I think this is very important for the other news of the day. You know, the Ellis plea in Georgia and some of the Trump litigation. Mike Johnson, who is trying to now replace Emmer, was one of the leaders of the independent state legislature theory and one of the people who tried to architect stealing the election from Joe Biden. That's real. That's a real moment. We talked about kind of the threat of a Jim Jordan speakership. I think with Mike Johnson, we really need to pull back the curtain here a little bit and see just what Mike Johnson would have done had he had that power in the 2020 election. That's a real question for the Republican conference today, but also for the country.
Well, and I guess, Allie, we know more about what the Republican conference thinks of that. And that was an idea that was so crazy, so extreme. It failed legally, but not politically. So tell us more about these two individuals, Johnson and Hern.
Yeah, it failed legally, but not politically. And I think that Congressman Jolly, who has really been my partner in this across all of our programming on MSNBC, is right to point that out. But I think it's also important for us to note that when Emmer was still the speaker-elect, so all but 10 minutes ago, there were members in the room who said they wouldn't vote for Emmer because he voted to certify the election. I mean, that's a litmus test now that Emmer failed simply because he said, hey, I'm not going to invalidate my work as the head of the House Republican campaign arm. I'm not going to say that the elections that I helped Republicans win in House races across the country are invalid just because Trump lost his presidential bid. I mean, that was likely the thinking behind Emmer's stance on certifying the election results, which is nothing to say of signing on in the Texas case. I think that it's also good for us to point out that Mike Johnson has roots in the false electors scheme and that he's part and parcel to that. Of course, he's someone who also voted to decertify the results because we knew in this field of 9 candidates that only 2 men voted to certify them, and Emmer was one. But I do think that this has become, and we've talked about this before.
Oh, we lost Allie. You froze. You froze. It's a metaphor. There's a metaphor in there somewhere. David Jolly, I'm going to have you pick up right where she left off. This is happening at this breakneck pace, where your information exceeds, I think, what has gotten out there. But just expand on her reporting.
Yeah, well, I think what Allie was affirming is that within the Republican caucus, election denying and the efforts to overturn an election is a requirement for some of the members to give you their vote for speaker. The question is it disqualifying for any of the other Republican members? And I don't think it is. I mean, there are a group of institutionalist members, even like a Tom Cole, who we often talk about, who voted to overturn the election in the House. And even some of your more staid and steady old timers, if you will, in the House, they're okay going along with Trumpism if they can get a House that's operating again, which is why I think a Johnson or a Hern, I understand, I use those interchangeably because each of them led the Republican Study Committee, which is a very conservative caucus within the Republican conference of probably 130 or more members. So it controls a majority. Steve Scalise once led it. Mike Johnson has led it. Kevin Hern has led it. And Johnson and Hern apparently are now the 2 remaining in the contest. I do think they could get to 217. The problem is it's one of just bad blood, right? So Tom Emmer beats Johnson by 20 votes 3 hours ago. But the people who didn't vote for Emmer say, well, I don't care what that vote looked like. I want the guy who lost to actually become speaker. Do your old institutionalists within the conference finally say, enough is enough, we've got to govern, let's get behind a Johnson and we'll take the L on our side of the conference? I don't know, but I do think this is it. I mean, this is the landing zone for House Republicans. And if it's not here, you're probably in a world of talking about Patrick McHenry, possibly some type of vote deal with Democrats.